Hello, everybody, and welcome to our special coverage here of the fourth year anniversary of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I'm here with the former defense minister from November of 2021 to September of 2023, Oleksii Reznikov. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, sir.
Now, maybe you could take us back to the beginning of the war, to the first day of the war, and maybe you could give us maybe one of the biggest impressions that you had, something that happened that you will never forget from that very first moment when Russia invaded your country.
Maybe I will use the formal conflict inside me, because a lot of partners, especially intelligence services, told us the invasion is imminent. But simultaneously, other partners, ambassadors and intelligence representatives told us, no, they just threatening you. Like they did, I mean Russians, they did it during the spring 2021, during the Easter holidays. It was the same situation. More than 140,000 Russian soldiers were accumulated near the Ukrainian borders. But after that, Kremlin got two phone calls with the new elected President Biden. And after that, they had a personal meeting in Switzerland. So, no invasion. The same situation, the visit of Ukrainian delegation, President Zelensky, I was with him in this delegation during the Munich Security Conference, 5-6 days before this date. A lot of meetings with the leaders of the Western world, including Vice President of the United States, Madame Kamala Harris also. So when President Zelensky asked them, okay, if it's imminent, could you switch on the sanction regime? Could you stop buying the oil and gas? Yes, we will do it. Let's do it right now. No, we will do it after the invasion. But we can stop them. It's a very similar situation like in the movie Golda. Did you see this movie about the Golda Meir, Prime Minister of Israel, about the war in 1917? It was the same situation. I strictly recommend it.
Okay.
It's very interesting. It's 3 or 4 years of this movie. So well, she also gathered the military cabinet having the different types of information. Imminent or not? I mean invasion also as well. So, and we had 2 serious meetings in the President's office with a National Security Council on Defense. After that meeting with the business, leaders of the Ukrainian business, plus leaders of the political parties and fractions in parliament. So we were prepared, but simultaneously we tried to not spreading the chaos and panics among the people. I had an appointment with the 3 foreign ministers in Kiev, with Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. My colleague, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, he was in the United States, called me and asked, Oleksii, this is delegation, 3 delegations, could you arrange something for them? Okay, we can fly using my official plane to the Kramatorsk, to the east. So the plan was starting at 8 morning. 24 of February. So, but and 4 early morning, I got the phone call from General Zaluzhny, Commander-in-Chief. Mr. Minister, they crossed the border. I kissed my wife and went to the office. Certainly, I canceled the flight with the 3 foreign ministers of 3 NATO countries. It means that 3 military intelligence and other types of intelligence didn't say them, you cannot fly to the east of the Ukraine, to the Donbas region. So when you have a controversial assessment, you have to make the right decision. Also, I had 3 phone conversations with the defense minister of Belarus, Mr. Hrenin. He gave me the word of honor of the officer that nobody will cross the border from the Belarus side. I shared this information with the members of parliament in Verkhovna Rada about this phone conversation. the word of honor of the officer, his general. But we have what we have. And also, I remember the very famous cognitive bias that in the case of full-scale invasion, Kyiv will fall during 3 days or 72 hours. And the interesting moment, after 1 month, it was in March, the first NATO defense minister from Lithuania, Arvydas Anuškauskas, visited me in Kyiv. Kyiv was still semi-occupied. He's a historic, he's academic, but he's a very brave man. And we arranged a meeting with the GUR, our military intelligence services. And they show us the secret order, which they found it in the pocket of the killed Russian officer of the Special Operation Forces near Kyiv. In this order was instructions to him, to this commander, to control crossroad near Verkhovna Rada and government building after 12 hours from the very beginning of the invasion. So in reality, I believe that Russians had a plan to occupy Kyiv during 72 hours. But there's a nuance. Russia had a plan, but Western world intelligence and politicians believed that Kyiv will fall during 3 days. But there's a difference. Because in Ukraine, we didn't have the same plan to give up. Because we have only one way to fight, to survive, to protect our lives. As you know, 4 years after the full-scale invasions, but 12 years after the war. Because war started in 2014 in Crimea and Donbass. And we're still fighting back.
Do you think that that initial failure to occupy the city in that 72 hours was essentially sealed their fate?
I think that it was a plan to occupy all big cities. Kyiv, Sumy, Chernigiv, Kherson, Odessa, Mykolaiv, Zaporizhzhia, Dnipro, and starting depending, then people will spreading away, especially Kyiv as the capital. And I have evidence that it was true, I mean plan. Because after the liberation of the Hostomel airport, you know, when we have our biggest cargo plane there, we arranged a short awarding ceremony. Me, General Syrsky, who is the commander-in-chief right now, that period he was responsible for the land armed forces and defending of Kyiv. And after that, I trying to look around the Gostomel and other, and in the small village Dmitriivka, you can check it on, it's on a Lviv direction, we found that 15 Russian tanks and infantry fighting vehicles burned out, destroyed totally. It was 2 Ukrainian tanks, cruisers, equipages. They hit them. And I saw personally the corpse of the Russian soldiers inside and the stocks of the uniform for the parade. So they really planned to marching with the parade in the Krещатик street in Kyiv. Second evidence, I discussed before the full-scale invasion with the head of Ukrainian service, intelligence service, General Litvinenko, and asked him, Mr. Alexander, do we have any information about what they're thinking in the Kremlin about our behavior? I mean Ukrainians. And Mr. Litvinenko told me, yes, Oleksii, we have information, we shared it with our partners, that they have a perception that in a case of full-scale invasion, 30%, 30, of Ukrainians will meet them with the flowers and hurrah, hurrah, like in Crimea 2014. 60%, 60, will stay in house, in their residence, and don't touch us, irrelevant. Give us food, medicine, water, and it's okay. Only 10% will fight, mostly on the western part of Ukraine, so near the Poland. Mr. Alexander, but 10% from 42 million mean 4 million. It's a lot of. Oleksii, this is the perception of Russians in Kremlin, according to the reports of their agents, political influencers, pro-Russians, I mean, et cetera, et cetera. And the ironic of this story is that Ukrainians really met them with the flowers, but a little bit, again, some kind of nuance, because we used Soviet-era weaponry. During the Soviet period of time, all types of artillery has the name of flowers: gvozdika, tulpan, hyacinth, peon, etc. So we met them with the biggest flower and burned their tank columns near the Kiev, Chernihiv, and so on. That is the nuance.
Yeah, what do you think that the ultimate goal was? To change this regime change, as they so often, frequently, even till today, cite? That to get rid of President Zelensky, you, the whole administration, and do what?
Yes, because for them, for Kremlin, Ukraine is very important as a very serious part of their Russian empire. Without Ukraine, they cannot survive. We can check Mr. Brzezinski story on something else. And when I communicated with your colleague from the German magazine, probably it was a Bild, the last question was, Minister, what do you think, what's the main goal of Kremlin, or Russian regime? To occupy Kiev or full Ukraine? I reacted very easy. I'm sure that the main goal of Russia to restore Berlin Wall again. It conquer Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Slovak, Czech, Hungary, and part of Germany. So Ukraine for them, it's a next step. After that, they will use Ukrainians as mercenaries, and they will move forward again and again and again. So for them, yes, they need, and also they really plan to occupy Ukraine or come back Ukrainians to the empire was, my understanding, my personal opinion, was born in 2004, Orange Revolution period, when Ukrainians didn't agree to have a proxy of Putin candidate to the president Yanukovych. And we choose Yushchenko as a European democratic candidate. I know it's very well because I was a lawyer. I represented that Viktor Yushchenko in the Supreme Court. With my colleagues, we won this Orange case, and President Yushchenko became a president. So I know that times very well. So I think that Ukrainians staying on the Maidan with the orange flags, with the pro-European ideas, humiliated Putin personally and his team. And war started in 2004. So this is continuation.
So over 20 years, and they still haven't achieved. There are many experts in the West that say the Russian losses, I don't know if you're familiar with this latest CSIS report that tries to compile the numbers, Russia sacrificing since 2022, 1.2 million casualties on the battlefield, 850 of which were in just the last 2 years alone, which gave them 1.5% of Ukrainian territory. There are some people in the West that say Russia has already proved that it has failed in this war, yet it continues. Why do you think it continues?
It's very interesting and, for me, very familiar question. Honestly, I was very naive in 2022. I was sure if in Kremlin will recognize that they have serious damages, casualties, as you mentioned, approximately 50,000, they will stop. Because I checked this story about the Afghanistan, Soviet Union, Gorbachev decision. So the losses of the Soviet Union was 18,000 killed in actions, plus wounded in actions. That's it. But the country was 320 million, biggest than the Russia today is. And when first meeting, or second meeting in Belarus, it was start of March 2022, it was 3 meetings in Belarus and the last one in Istanbul. I was a member of this delegation. When I saw that some kind of progress with the Russians, because we agreed to arrange the humanitarian corridor to support the civilians to go out of the Mariupol, Berdyansk, and Volnovakh and other cities. I raised the next question. Guys, we have 3,000 corps of your soldiers and officers on our controlled territory. Let's arrange the changing of corps. We need to come back our soldiers which are killed, and you will go with and take your.
How many did you have at the time?
3,000.
3,000.
It was in the start of March. It was according to our reports. 3,000 was in the field, but we know that they used all types of evacuation into Belarus to others. So 3,000 was after 2 weeks of invasion. They was surprised. Next meeting, invisible 15,000. So I was absolutely sure that it's enough. But the reaction from the Deputy Minister of Defense of Russia was, no, we will not confirm. We have only 50 or 80 officers died from the COVID. In June, approximately June 2022, when Kyiv was liberated, it was meeting of President of International Red Cross Organization, Monsieur Morer, with the Prime Minister, Mr. Shmyhal, me, and other members of government. He came to Kyiv from Moscow, and he told us that he met with the Minister Shoigu and his deputy Fomin. Mr. President, I asked Monsieur Morer, can I ask you one stupid question? He smiled. I know you are a lawyer. You cannot ask me this stupid question. Okay, what do you think? They really know the truth? Do they know about the numbers of the casualties? Killed in actions, wounded in actions? Because at that moment, in June, it was as minimum 50,000 numbers, which we were absolutely sure. And Monsieur Morer told me, yes, I'm sure they know the reality, but they don't want to be a killer messenger. They will not try to deliver, they will not risk to deliver this bad news to their leaderships. This is the speciality of the Russians' approach. So, but I was naive. If they will have 100,000, that will stop. No. They have 1 million. For them, it doesn't matter. They use their people as a cannon fodder. They use the mid-grader tactics on the battlefield. That's why we call them orcs. So for them, doesn't matter how many lives they will live on the ground.
And I believe they hit 100,000 in the first year.
So we need to find other type of interest, trying to persuade them. It's a personal interest of their leaders, how to survive, politically survive, plus maybe huge money fortune around them and their allies, so-called.
When did you realize, we saw this from our perspective, watching all these events unfold, reporting on them, and wondering kind of what's coming next, not privy to all the intelligence that you had and the real information that we as journalists have been trying to dig out. When did you realize that this was going to be a long war? Did you realize that in the beginning? Because we all had such high hopes that, wow, look at Ukraine perform. And, 22, we were all very hopeful, especially with the counteroffensives and the getting back the Kharkiv region and Kherson.
No, you just reach out the target. It's like the 10 in the target during the shooting. After 3 weeks of the full-scale invasion, I felt that I'm just exhausted, totally. So I have no energy, nothing, because I slept probably 1 hour during and so I left in a jet lag regime. Phone call with the defense minister, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Canada, United States. After that, Europe wake up, and again, plus generals, plus presidents' meetings, government meetings, etc., etc. And I started internal discussion with myself. what is the problem? And I realized that when I wake up, the first question, when it will stop? Okay, if they will stop, what do you mean stop? I mean that it's good situation if they will, like before the February 2022. Okay, the hybrid war on the east, maybe it will be a little bit easy, but aircrafts flying from the Boryspil International to Europe, etc., etc. And that moment I realized this is impossible. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon distance. If you want to finalize the last 195 meters, you have to survive 42 kilometers. You have to keep energy to restore your energy. You have running, drinking water, thinking. Then you will survive. Then you will be on a stadium and somebody will say, hurrah, you are the hero, you finished the marathon. So this is a marathon. So I realized that we have a marathon after 21 days of this full-scale invasion. After that, I changed my mindset, my approach. I started sleeping 3-4 hours, 5 hours during the, it was enough. And I think that all Ukrainians changed their mind, that this is a marathon and we need to survive, running, keeping our energy, keeping our tempo, and find the best solutions how to win this war. So this is a marathon.
Yeah, what mile do you think we're on?
I think that we are moving after the equator. So my relatives asked me, when war will stop? Honestly, I reacted Thursday, but I don't know what the month should be. But, and seriously, I think this year, this is a real window of opportunity to stop this war. We will not live with a serious peaceful coexistence regime with the Russians. No, it's for decades. But some kind of ceasefire regime, some kind of stalemates without cruise and ballistic missiles in the air and Iranian drones in the air, probably could be. It should be like 2014 after the signing of the Minsk Agreement 1 and after that Minsk Agreement 2. Russia also needs time to accumulate their resources.
Yeah.
It's a question of their survival, economically, finance, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I feel that probably this year is a year of opportunity.
Being part of the negotiating process, and not only in 22, but before that, you were also part of this process in the Donbass. Do you think that, well, first of all, in 22, do you think there was a real opportunity to have an agreement with Russia in Istanbul?
No, no, because absolutely, honestly, when I saw the first draft from their side and heard the first statement, I realized it was a soft type of capitulation act. And it was, the first meeting was 28th of February, so 4 days after the full-scale invasion. The second day after the full-scale invasion, I got the request for the phone conversation from the Minister Khrenin, again, Defense Minister of Belarus. I agreed. And I heard him, his voice, on the phone. He was very nervous. And he told me, Minister, I'm like a postman. My mission to send you a message from the Minister Shoigu. He suggests that Ukraine could sign the Capitulation Act and you will stop the deaths on the battlefield. I had no time to call to the President or Prime Minister to get their advice. I understood that I have reacted in momentum. So my reaction was, Minister Khrenin, thank you for your intermediaries. Normally when diplomats saying artillery in silence, but you can send my message to Minister Shoigu that I'm ready to sign the Capitulation Act from the Russian side. That's it, period. So when we met in Belarus, I had the same suggestion. So no seconds was any ideas that it was a really intention to negotiate with a fair or with the real formula of peace. But we used this time also, and we got the success with the humanitarian corridors, the platform how to change the prisoners of war, etc., etc. And maybe, who knows, it was the first step for the long period of the negotiation. Maybe in a last stage we will see. Because this is like serial. But again, the first episode was in 2004.
Well, this is...
so the same conditions. You can stop your intention to the NATO, Russian language, Russian church. You have to reduce your armed forces, etc. Nothing new one. The same. Plus refused to say that Crimea is Ukraine and Donbass is Ukraine.
What's different this year, do you think? You think that it's
the difference is at the table we see not only interest of Russia and Ukraine. In all types of negotiation, you have to recognize the interest of sides. It's a Harvard School formula or all types of negotiation schools. But I see the interest of Europe. I see the interest of the United States. I see the interest of other countries in the world, not only in Russia. Because China watching, Africa countries watching, all South world watching, but first of all, European countries. So Europe woke up, I hope. Because if Ukraine will fall, the next station would be Lithuania and Poland and Estonia. Suwal corridor, Narva, and they will move to the Baltic Sea. Especially after the joining to the NATO family, I mean Sweden and Finland, Baltic Sea became an internal Baltic lake, internal NATO lake. So for Russia, it's a serious threat. So they will use the chance to go through the Suwal corridor to the Kaliningrad and open the door. That's why, in the interest of Europe, to win this war with Ukraine, the battlefield is only in Ukraine.
We see Europeans interested in having a seat at the table.
Yes,
in these negotiations.
Sure.
We heard President Zelensky just recently say that he thanked his partners in the Middle East, but says this needs to happen on the European continent, and Europeans need to be at the table. What are your thoughts on that? Right now, it's the United States, a trilateral format, and we see that Donald Trump doesn't. I don't know if he understands what's at stake here. It's difficult to really see. And I'd just like to get your opinion. How do you think that this process is going with the United States, and what happened in the United States under President Donald Trump?
As a negotiator, I very, very attentively saw the first meeting in the Oval Office in February last year. Not the last 10 minutes, 52 minutes. I also don't like the ambience or atmosphere of this meeting. But again, about the nuance. President Trump called himself, I am a mediator. So Russia and Ukraine, I'm a mediator. I'm trying to set up your conflict. And United States, in this case, is a mediator, like OSCE was a mediator in the Minsk process. And France and Germany in Normandy process was a mediator between Russia and Ukraine. So today we have a mediator, United States, with their representatives, special envoy, etc., etc. But behind this scene, we see the interest of Europe. That's why President Zelensky flying with the leaders of the European countries to the Washington, D.C. They have a different types of meeting, especially President of Finland, Prime Minister of Italy, etc., etc. So it's a process. It doesn't matter that only two delegations officially sitting at the table, Russia and Ukraine, and United States using the mediator status. What is important that Ukraine has Europeans behind them with their resources, promises, coalitional willingness, etc., etc. Because for us, the main question is what kind of security architecture we will have. Because after the Budapest Memorandum, we became more serious, more adult. We will not believe in a paper like Budapest Memorandum. The colleague of your TV channel, Mr. Kuchma, Piotr Kuchma, has the same name as Ukrainian President Leonid Kuchma. Leonid Kuchma was the head of Ukrainian delegation in the Minsk process. After that, Leonid Kravchuk, also Ukrainian president. It was an honor for me to be a deputy head of this Ukrainian delegation in Minsk process, 2 years. And President Kuchma told me the story about the signing the Budapest Memorandum. The meeting was between Ukraine delegation, Russian, and Americans. But in reality, France and UK also joined to this memorandum. And President Mitterrand, the president of France, was the oldest gentleman, and he was in good conditions. So he asked President Kuchma to come to his hotel in Budapest and signed this agreement together. The glasses of champagne, and President Mitterrand told to young president of Ukraine, Leonid Kuchma, quote, "Young boy, in any case, they will cheat you." And we see the result. That's why it's very important for us what type of security architecture we will have. In other case, Russia will come back. That's why it's in the interest of European countries, again, to invest in a serious shield in Ukraine. We don't need the boots on the ground. We don't need these soldiers from Netherlands, Denmark, or Poland, or Germany. No, but we need technology, we need finance, we need other types of resources. Because this war, it's absolutely new type of war in the world. This is a not traditional conventional war with the battle tanks, artillery, infantry, and tranches. So in this war, we're using Soviet-era weaponry, NATO standard weaponry, and cutting-edge technology, like all types of drones, electronic warfare, swimming, diving, crawling, flying, etc., etc., etc. So, and this is the time of very cheap decisions. The battle tank cost from $12 till $13 million or euros. FPV drone costs $500. You can use one or two and destroy one tank, which costs 12 million. The war is a math. This war, the war of the resources. We need the resources of the Europe. Europe needs the Eastern Shield against the orcs. That's it.
Well, that Eastern Shield is being built on the Western Ukrainian border.
Before.
Yeah. And if you look at the modernization of Polish armed forces, right? I mean, they're essentially loading up on all those weapon systems that are from the wars of the past, yeah? Tanks, howitzers, artillery. Is this, and Europeans are going to spend almost €1 trillion in the next couple of years. Do they know what they're buying? Do you think they know what they're buying?
The trick is, when I became a minister as a civilian, I'm a lawyer, you know, and I started to meet all generals of armed forces of Ukraine plus sector of security and defense. They are very serious gentlemen with a good expertise, knowledge, very brave. It's an honor to me to shake hands with them. But I realized one thing. All generals in the world, not only in Ukraine, in Europe, in the United States, everywhere, preparing for the former wars. We need to change mindset, especially as a civilian. We need to prepare for the future wars. What's the difference? When I met future defense minister of Lithuania, Mr. Lavrinas, it was February 2024, probably. He was the head of parliament committee. After 3 days, he was appointed as a defense minister. And I was in Vilnius during the forum. And he asked me, Oleksii, tell me, what is the main solutions? To buy drones or to buy tanks? Because my colleagues trying to persuade me that I need to buy tanks. Because future war would be maneuvering in Europe, tanks against tanks. I told him, Mr. Lawrence, it's a bullshit. Because Russian wouldn't use against you ballistic and cruise missiles, after that Iranian drones, after that small drones, after that they will use the tanks. You will not have time to fighting with them with the tanks because they use the drones against your tanks. Buy drones. You need swarm. And you saw the last celebration in China when they use robotic systems with the kids. This is not a FC signed movies. It's a reality. So that Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a Terminator, it's a reality. So I'm absolutely sure. After the drone provocation near the Munich airport, in Denmark, in Poland, Russia sent them the signal, guys, salami tactics again.
Well, I wish some of your colleagues, former colleagues, would listen to you and get that information out there, because I think it's also very paying attention to this war and watching it evolve. I think it's definitely maybe a false move to move in that direction. I'd like to ask you about hopes that Ukraine had when you were Minister of Defense, and that was for those counteroffensives. Yeah, the first, the second one. The first one was great, right? We saw the liberation of the Kharkiv region, we saw Kherson, and then that tank coalition and getting all this equipment together for the big push to try and get Russians out of the occupied areas. Can you tell us, what were the expectations, first of all, for that counteroffensive? And second of all, what went wrong? Why do you think it failed? General Zaluzhny recently just said that he believes that Zelensky spread forces too thin. There was no punch, if you will, towards the Sea of Azov.
Oh, this counteroffensive had a lot of rumors, speculations, etc. And I would say that truth is another. And maybe this is not right time to open the shells. But the main problem publicly of this counteroffensive campaign was what this campaign was overestimated, over-advertised it. We did in Kharkiv silently, success. We did it in Kherson direction, success. We did a lot of campaign like Kyiv liberation, Chernihiv, Sumy, success. And after that, our partners persuade us, oh, we will prepare, we will help you. And in all media, in all TV shows, Ukrainians are preparing for the counteroffensive. Applause, hurrah, hurrah. But this is not Hollywood. This is not blockbuster. In Kremlin sitting there, okay, we'll see. They will prepare, we will not prepare. Stupid. So, like former Pope Francisc, his quote, that miracle makes in silence. So the good counteroffensive also should be made in silence. More details, maybe we will discuss later after
All
this.
right. Well, no, I understand that. I think expectations were certainly very high, and but thank you for that. Now, moving on here, we went in a very different direction than I wanted to go, but I'm very happy because you've given me a lot of insight to some very important events, and especially the peace process. You didn't answer the question about Europe having a seat at the table and the United States being broker of peace, yeah? Do you think the Europeans should have a seat at the table?
Sure.
And if so, who should have a seat at the table?
If we will, again, check the main messages of Putin about this war. First, Munich Conference 2007. After that, December 2021, Kremlin sent official request to the NATO office in Brussels and Washington. You have to stop your movement and you have to come back to the line which was fixed in 1997. So before then Poland, Slovak, Czech, Hungarian, Bulgarian, and other became full-fledged members of the NATO. In January 2021, Putin got the reaction from the Brussels and Washington. Forget it. After that, he started his full-scale invasion in Ukraine. After the Spider-Net operation on his soil and other successful operation of Ukrainian armed forces and special services, all communication of Putin with his auditory was, we are fighting with the NATO. He didn't mention Ukraine as an independent country or side of this war. He is fighting with the NATO as allies. Ukraine just a battlefield. That's why I'm absolutely sure that we have to sit at the table together, Ukraine and as minimum European countries which are the member of NATO allies. Maybe without Hungary and Slovak if they have a problem politically at this moment. But the main, again, a coalition. Like I told you about the Rammstein, different types of coalition. Baltic, Nordic countries, United Kingdom, France, Germany, and others. Because this is their interest to see the real, serious, peaceful agreement and which will live decades. Because drones flying very far. So, United States, as a member of NATO, you want to be a broker? Okay, fine. This is not the principle. But the United States is a member of the NATO. It's an interest of the United States also that NATO will not fight. So that's why for me it's absolutely realistic plan. Ukraine plus European countries as minimum. They have decided who will be their representatives. Nordic, Baltic countries together, or they will vote.
Is there any kind of agreement that can be made with Vladimir Putin to reassure them that there won't be this constant NATO expansion, because this is an accusation levied against him and levied against NATO, that they're trying to bring in Ukraine. We all know the reality of it, the reasons why Central Europe joined NATO. It was them that wanted to join NATO, not NATO wanting them to join. Yeah.
You know, after these 4 years in Ukraine, I heard a lot of thoughts that maybe we don't need the NATO as a partner. Maybe NATO will ask us to join them, not Ukraine. Yes, many years ago it was our real, absolutely understandable inspiration as a security architect. But if we are fighting alone, maybe we need to have allies with the United Kingdom, with the Poland, with the Baltic countries, with the Netherlands, with the France and Germany. That's it. We don't need the allies with the Hungary today, with their political situation, or other countries.
Do you think that's a realistic possibility?
Something changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe it would be enough to be a member of European Union, because it's a question of economical, finance, humanitarian issues, but military. Maybe we will have allies with the Turkey, because we're living in the Black Sea together with the Romania and Bulgaria. Why not? We need to protect freedom of navigation in the Black Sea. We living with the Danube River. So it could be different types of coalitions. And we can discuss it. So, but at the table of negotiation with the Russians should be somebody who wants to have a real stable and tough peace in Europe, and have a leverage to push Russians. One leverage, money for them, nothing else. As I told you, I wasn't naive about their lives. No, no values, no human lives. No, only money. Money is a leverage for them, for the Kremlin regime.
Do you think that Europe understands this? Do you think that Europe's doing enough?
Not
by trying to...
not enough.
Not enough.
As some general told me, if you have a war, you will not have enough, never. Reluctant, time. They have a lot of money. They can really stop buying Russian resources. Shadow fleet. They gave us the wimple, the awarding ceremony in the Munich conference. Yeah, good, thank you. Maybe better you will stop 10 shadow vessels with the oil from the Russia. It would be more interesting for us. Because if you will stop the finance resources, they will stop paying money to their soldiers. Stop the options to feed the war on their side. This is doable.
All right, so to sum up here, you're hopeful. This year is, it provides a window.
Yes, window of opportunity to stop this part of war. Again, this war started in 2004. Today we are on a summit, and I hope we are starting moving down.
But the war will continue in its hybrid elements. And
yes, unfortunately, yes. It's a marathon. But maybe it will be a new stage of war with the less damages, less casualties. I hope that we have a chance to change this stage of war. I'm an optimist. It helped me to survive mentally, physically also as well.
Yep, I think you have to be an optimist.
And I will remind you again the very famous Bible story, David and Goliath, or Goliath. So David was small, young, brave, and smart. Sling, so it was the cutting-edge technology at that moment. And he defeated the monster. We can do it.
All right, well, we're going to be definitely hoping, praying, and standing by your side the whole way along. Thank you, sir, very much for sitting down with us today and discussing these issues. It's been very enlightening. Oleksii Reznikov, thank you very much.
Thank you.